Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Minister, for coming to the Seanad today to address the matter I raised regarding the lack of physiotherapy to meet the needs of children in the West. It's timely, I suppose, that this commencement notice is being heard today after last night's programme on RTE, and I want to commend RTE for that programme and for highlighting that what all of us who work on the ground and work with people know has been happening for many years, and that people have been suffering in pain, waiting for vital treatment. But to see it concentrated like that in an RTE programme, I hope will prompt some consciousness within those who are making decisions. And I suppose I hear the Minister saying this morning that it was unacceptable, and he continues to say it's unacceptable, and it certainly is unacceptable to the people who are waiting in pain. As is the situation with people who are waiting for therapy and physiotherapy as well. The pain they are enduring every day is unacceptable. But Minister, notwithstanding the numerous representations I receive from parents all over Mayo, I was prompted to raise this case by a woman from Mayo. Her name is Karen, and she has an 8-year-old son, Jack, who has cerebral palsy. And 4 years ago, Jack had surgery. At that time, he was facing life in a wheelchair without this surgery, and it wasn't available in Ireland, so he had it in the United States after fundraising €70,000 in the local community. But upon returning, and on the advice of doctors in the US, Jack began a physiotherapy programme at First Step Therapy in Patrickswell in County Limerick. And I believe that this is the only place outside of Dunleary where this particular physiotherapy, which is called the spider cage and the locomat therapy that Jack needed, was available. The complex surgery that was carried out in the USA requires this specific type of physiotherapy in order to get maximum benefits. The HSE therapy that Jack receives through the HSE is just 45 minutes twice a month, and this is not only inadequate in terms of the amount that he's getting, but the type of physiotherapy that he needs. This therapy too is paid entirely by the family with no support from the HSE. He attends this centre every second weekend for 2 hours on a Friday evening and again on Saturday morning. And all of this is self-funded, with Karen footing the cost for the diesel and trying to fundraise money for the cost of the accommodation and the cost of the therapy itself. And it works out at between €400 and €500 for each trip. And the question is, why should parents like Karen have to depend on charity fundraising to provide this vital treatment to keep her son from being wheelchair bound? Because without the follow-up care, the surgery becomes less and less effective, and the physiotherapy is not an optional extra. It's essential for Jack to have any quality of life to alleviate him of pain. I have travelled myself to Limerick with Karen and Jack to see for myself the great work being done by the First Step Rehabilitation Centre there. It was opened several years ago by Mary Harney, the then Minister for Health. But Minister, there are two things that I'm asking you today, because Jack isn't the only person. I'm just using Jack as an example of what children have to go through when they don't have this vital physiotherapy available to them in their own local areas. When I say local area, I'm not talking about their own parish. Indeed, I'm not even talking about their own county, but in their own region. So firstly, Minister, is it possible for the HSE to put a funding mechanism in place that would help Karen and other families to pay for the travel, the accommodation and the therapy that is needed for their children? And secondly, can you instruct the HSE to carry out a full cost-benefit analysis to the setting up of similar physiotherapy centres in each of the provinces to meet the needs of children within the region? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister.
First of all, I want to thank Senator Rose Conway-Walsh for raising this very, very specialised issue in relation to physiotherapy, and I welcome the opportunity to outline the current position in relation to this matter. Can I also say that I agree with her introductory remarks in relation to the programme last night on RT. I find it totally unacceptable, and I agree that we have to do something about it, and that's the reality of it. Children in pain or families in pain shouldn't have to wait around like that, and we have to deal with the waiting lists. And already Minister Harris, I know that he's been very proactive over the last couple of hours in relation to dealing with it through the hospitals and the HSE. But again, as I say, it's unacceptable to find people in that situation. In relation to your own particular question, the HSE funds a range of community services and supports to enable each individual with a disability to achieve his or her full potential and to maximise independence. Services are provided in a variety of community and residential settings in partnership with service users, their families, their carers and a range of statutory, non-statutory, voluntary and community groups. Voluntary agencies provide the majority of services in partnership with and on behalf of the Health Service Executive. The HSE works very closely with a number of voluntary service providers that specialise in the provision of services to children with cerebral palsy, offering a number of therapy services, including physiotherapy and gait analysis. These include Enable Ireland and the Central Immediate Clinic, the CRC. In 2005, the CRC commenced the provision of a range of services to people in the Midwest region, including the world's first gait laboratory. Significant resources have been invested by the health sector in disability services over the past number of years, including an additional funding of £31 million last year. And this has continued into the Social Care Disability Service Plan 2017, that extra £31 million. The First Step Therapy Centre is a private company based in Limerick that offers intensive physiotherapy programmes for children and adults with neuromuscular disorders. The HSE does acknowledge that service users may choose to access privately provided therapy services. However, it is not generally the policy of the HSE to fund private therapy sessions. But can I say also, as well, as I have a task force set up at the moment, and I met them in the last couple of days, and they are looking at the idea of personalised budgets, and this could be a situation where people might be given a certain amount of funding to access physiotherapy services. So this kind of a situation, Karen Jack's case, could easily fall under that. But at the moment, the HSE is working closely with all the service providers to ensure available resources are used in a creative and flexible manner in order to be responsive to the needs that present. However, the health service as a whole has to cooperate within the parameters of funding available to it, and given the current economic environment, this has become a major challenge for all stakeholders, including the HSE, the voluntary service providers, service users and their families. Physiotherapy services for adults and children are generally delivered through the primary care teams or community therapy services, through specialist disability providers or early intervention and children's teams from 0 to 18 years of age, which are continually being developed under the Progress in Disability Service for Children and Young People 0 to 18 programme. The HSE also provides assist devices to people with disabilities to enable them to maintain their health, optimise functional ability and to facilitate care in their primary care setting. In addition, access to rehab equipment is also provided where it is appropriate. But can I say the issues are raised are very, very important issues, and I think we have to look at some creative ideas and to deal with situations like the Karen and Jack case that you raised today. Thank you.
Brief supplementary, Senator.
Yeah, thank you, Minister, for that. I welcome the fact that a task force has been set up, but I do think, and I think the crux of it is, as you said there, is that the money be used to meet the needs of the individual patient, because the same treatment is not suitable across the board. I would have to disagree with you, Minister, in terms of, and I'd have to disagree with you in terms of the picture that you paint in terms of children being able to access physiotherapy when they need it. That is not the case. That is not my understanding of it. It's not my experience of it. The physiotherapy, twice a month for physiotherapy for a child like Jack would be just absolutely, totally unacceptable. And I think there needs to be an examination there of where the money is going to, even the organisations the money is going to, and the support and services that the outputs from that money to make sure that it meets the areas where it's most needed with children. Thank you, Minister.
Senator Rose Conway-Walsh, I totally take your point in relation to physiotherapy. I mean, essentially, when I took over as Minister of State for Disabilities, we had 7 or 8 years of no investment whatsoever. So we had to start reinvestment, but we also have to start reforming the services. So you raised a point here, and I think it's a very important point here, in your earlier contribution, that there should be some sort of a cost-benefit analysis brought to the... So I'll bring that point to the HSE, and particularly the people directly involved in disability service, because I do think that there is something there we have to do. If we're putting in millions into reforming and investing in the service, we need to ensure that that money is going to the likes of Jack. That's what I'm talking about. I want to focus on. And I take that point. And also your second point there, the access to physiotherapy services. That is my experience as well, particularly in recent years, that we have a major crisis. So the therapies, and that is accepted, by the way, by most people on the front line in relation to whether it's speech and language therapy or physiotherapy. That's something that I hear in Waterford, Wexford, Mayo, Galway, and right across the north side of Dublin. So there's no point in denying that that's not the reality. But my objective is to see, can we, whatever budget we have, can we prioritise people, ensure that the person with the disability, ensure the person gets it, and in my social care disability service plan, in my submission at the time when we were doing the details and the figures, it's important to know as well that people might know this, but 1.688 billion is going to be put into disability service in 2017. 1.688 billion, and that's an increase of 96.3 million. That's a 6% increase. But brightly so, people like yourself, Senator Rose, are also demanding, if you have money like to put into services, why are children on waiting lists and why are things like that happen? So that's my job. We're going to try and reform the system, but in relation to the cost-benefit analysis and the access to physiotherapy, there are 2 issues I'll bring back to the management of the HSE.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.